Thank you. Yeah. It's, it's when you are starting to talk, you have all those diplomatic talks, right? How happy you are. But it's not diplomacy. Really very happy. So when I saw Jose Maria and Maria, brought very nice memories. And even archaeologically, we are the same age, Sometimes it came to back many years ago, right? With a very nice memories. We're successful, and I'm happy that it continues. And today I'm here back to speak about our research, which has a long history, but at the same time it continues. Many of points which I will tell you, I imagine you already know, but I will repeat some of them, and I will start with Caucasus. And why Caucasus? You see, which was always question mark. I remember why Caucasus can be important for human history. I will not go to old history telling the Caucasian race, why came, why all Greeks were talking about Colchis and so on. I will say that what is today Caucasus? Why we consider this place important for not just human history, for the natural history. And you can see geography, you are between two Black Sea, and you are between crossroads. Today, it's very often people are saying, oh, you have difficult geographic position, geopolitically it's complicated. And so on. But it's 10 million years ago, you had the same crossroad for the different animals, different plants. But what I wanted to stress, to be on crossroad and to be on the edge, it's also advantages, not just problems. And I think Caucasus, which is very big diversity of the nature, it shows that how you could be big archive of knowledge. So we know that it's more than 35 biodiversity hotspots in the world. And one of them is Caucasus. But it's not as rich as others. If you go in Amazon, you have much more species. But it's the only place among these 35 where you can study evolution, where you can study different stages of, let's say, nature, the development of nature, and correlate it with human evolution stories. So to be on this temperate biodiversity hotspot, it's reflected in today's nature. And when when people are asking me, what is your country? I would say in two words. See, you have a big biodiversity in small territory and uninterrupted cultural story. But before cultural story, you had ancestors, you had hominoids, and here we can speak that we have a different stages of story of which is before human evolution. And if we will look just ongoing projects, you can see there are different sites where we can learn more and more about very early history and paleo environment. Connected with this story of Black Sea and Caspian Sea. Also, I would like to stress that on Black Sea region is still a refugee. So it means that even now you can see plants which should be extinct in different glacial periods. It means that it was, may I say, predictable resources for different human during the human history. It's a few sites which are ongoing projects, and you can see it looks really impressive, but also we have a long already tradition work with Georgian State, with Bienvenido Martinez Navarro, and we have really important finds, like, for example, this, which is the great ape called, it was called Udamnopithecus, but in reality it's a Dryopithecus, and it's one of the, if not last Dryopithecus in the world, because all they were extinct around 9.5 million years ago, and it's stayed here million years more. And we have new finds also this year, not a few years ago, but it's not published on Mesopithecus, and it's between, we are still which type of colobins we have. So the point is that we have different finds and opportunity to look on the big picture, which was before human evolution. For example, this Testachevi, which can be correlated exactly side told yesterday, which is after exactly Messinian time period. So all it is maybe for fauna, it's important for natural history, but it's reflected in archaeology. See, I just put several maps to see density of Paleolithic sites, lower Paleolithic sites, the middle Paleolithic sites, upper Paleolithic sites. So it means that what the point which I mentioned already, it's valid. You have a big diversity on small territory. You have history of nature and uninterrupted culture where you can correlate, may I repeat, with big events of different stages of human history. And of course, today's main topic is Dmanisi, and I will come back to who and why left Africa, right? And I will remind you in 91, before Dmanisi finds, were larger brain, larger body size, and more advanced stone tools. This was the idea. I didn't put the picture of the 91 conference. Jose Maria was there. It was how many? 30? Oh my God, 32 years ago when first time Dmanisi came to the stage. And since these 32 years, it changed, of course, views. But that time it was very big sensation, may I say. Just briefly, who doesn't know, this is a medieval city where we had excavations, I don't know, from 30s, and below medieval city, this beautiful setting was identified. Rhino, it was 83, and you know, rhino for medieval times, it's not so well. And since that time, it was clear that you have very early site below the medieval setting. Then came stone tools, and now we have a very clear dating, and it's around 8.1. And what is very important, and I will mention later, we have two big lava flow. One is 1.76 and another 1.85. These 1.76 lavas are here. They are a little bit far from the site. It's farward 20 kilometers, but it's very important for other sites, which I will mention later. So just to have the idea how was the site formation, where you have really very big tension and density of the both stone tools and bones. And once I had a lecture in Pittsburgh, and I didn't find anything to connect with Pittsburgh, and I thought maybe the time capsule of Andy Warhol can be a good point for Dmanisi. And it was half joke, but it's reality, right? It's a small time period, and where you can speak about really one episode on human evolution, but from different facets, may I say. And today you can see how big distribution is of, see, just one place. It's a small territory, I don't know, 5 square meters, even less, and you can see density of bones and stone tools, and very well preserved fauna, which is, of course, a big advantage, like this saber-toothed cat, which is absolutely fully well preserved. For paleontologists, it's always dream. And you know, with this skull, you can speak not just taxonomy, ecology, but also fully reconstruct biodynamics. So it's something which is really exceptional preservation. So this is advantage, and you have this big, may I say, density. We did a lot of research now, and every group has own articles and reconstructions of it. Also, of course, stone tools are thousands here. And main point, which I think, and still researching continues, I will not go in details. And in 2 weeks, Deborah and Robert are coming to Georgia to look one more on these stones. But in the main point, what is important that before these finds, prevailing view was that out of Africa, humans should have already developed stone tools like Acheulean stone tools. And you can see here are thousands of thousands, and all the one stone tools, and all are coming from nearby gravels. And what we have humans also, you see, it's very rare to have from one spot 5 skulls, which you can see how well preserved are. And this is this first jaw, which was found in 91, which really provoked many discussions from the beginning. On this meeting I mentioned with Jose Maria in 91. But you see, if you will put, not to go in very precise details, you will see that architecture of this jaw is very primitive. It's very robust. It looks, it's so well preserved at the beginning. It looked very modern, but in reality, it's quite robust. The architecture, as I told you, is very archaic. It has no chin, and only, may I say, the advanced feature is reduction of third molar. You remember there is an impression, the skulls are creation of God, the jaw is work of the David. I don't know whom it belongs, this expression. There are several versions. I knew that Clark Howell, but Yoel Rack told me that it has another author. But anyway, what it means that they are much less diagnostic than skulls. And Maria and Jose Maria remember well this jaw when it was really big. It's a big surprise how different this could be. So now we have these skulls, and you can see how they small are. We have now 5 skulls. You see that they are adolescent at the 2700, and it has it's real teenager, and this is an option also opportunity. We study of this through synchrotron. You can see calculate dentin, and maybe you will have very clear ontogenesis, and you can see really the absolute age, biological age of it. This is reconstruction. I remember when we published first 2 skulls, there was, and jaw, it was published together and in Science, and then was another, may I say, critique of papers by one of our colleague, Jeffrey Schwartz, and he wrote that, no, it's impossible, you have 3 species. No, I'm seriously, it's not, this was the point. You can see Science 2000, then was our response. But this, for example, skull 2 is very deformed. It says post-mortem and post-deformation. When you are reconstructing, you can see how different they are. And how it looks like skull 3. So beside of going details, and this is skull 4, which is, I will speak more, but also one of the big gift for us. You have first time almost fully edentulous jaw. So you have 5 skulls. How you can use it, and I think the biggest advantage here is you have a different biological age in one population. And when was this paper of one of our student, Ani Marguelashvili, about just on dental-alveolar modeling, and she saw many different details, what was clear that we have very rarely chance for early hominids to look on different age. It means that different aspects which influenced on these fossils. It's age, it's gender, it's post-mortem things, and so on. What I wanted to say, this is a big scientific infrastructure now to look from different perspective on these fossils, and 5 ones. Plus, you have a wonderful now preservation of the postcranials, which is also very rare when you have first early Homo together. Yeah, of course, it's good, to have these fanfares, and recently, in fact, I recommend to look in this book. This is National Geographic recently published. It's 100 main archaeological sites in the world, you see, where you have whatever everybody knows, Troya or Pompeii or pyramids and so on, and Dmanisi is there, and which is nice because it means that our field is getting not just in human evolution and biology, but entering this, let's say, market of big archaeological finds. So what we learned now to come back, it's completely different. It's older, brain capacity even smaller, body weight small, and primitive stone tools. And now it's no doubt that it's one of the first peopling, at least it's earliest traces of genus out of every. And I think this one of the biggest discovery, may I say, it's this Cal 5, which is, of course, it's nice to have on the first front page of New York Times. It's very rarely you have a science, right? But you see what is on the other side, you see, I think this is a very good textbook specimen, may I say, where you can see, this my colleague, which I mentioned, who gave three species for these 3 skulls, if he would see these separately, jaw, face, and other side, he would put really three species. So what it means that you can see in this case, in one specimen, features which are considered sometimes very diagnostic for other fossils. What is the lesson, I think, is here, not lesson, more opportunity, where you have well-preserved fossils, how you can look on different eyes on partial ones, which are usually with this type you have in Africa. And when I mentioned also an opportunity, you have 5 different biological age. This is another big opportunities. And here, and I'm sure when we will see it together with Jose Maria and other colleagues, you can see how this broken zygomatic, which we found, influenced on the jaw, which impossible to predict. That's a human evolution. That's our field, that you have always big surprises. So, and to put this, just want to say that all are from the same same position, I mean, stratigraphic position. Of course, this is question how many species are. Is it different species or this variability you can see inside of like one species within species variation? We are more thinking, at least today, that it's one species which we have in Dmanisi, and all this variability, what you can see either in modern form humans or great apes. Another, this skull, which is this edentulous skull, which has a different reconstruction, reminds, and which gave us chance to look different way on behavior, right? Not just by stone tools. And we can say that all edentulous skulls like this, we have Chapelocene, almost Neanderthal. There is one ape, chimpanzee, which is modern chimpanzee. Dmanisi people had no bananas that time period, well, cooked food. But what I wanted to say, besides going any details, and I remember at the beginning I told you, that he was telling me about socialization with different animals. I thought it's a little bit, not bubble, but not a proved idea, may I say. But more and more, I think that this edentulous hominid and generally these hominids have different social life. And the idea that that could be first compatience of the humans, what we have here, because it's a temperate zone, you could not have vegetable sources and so on among some years. It's possible. So anyway, this Joe helps us to look also different side of these fossils. Of course, it's still discussion where we are. Are we here as a splitters or we like lumpers? But anyway, it's clear that it can be, the Dmanisi is a population more closely with Homo erectus. Is it Georgicus or Ergaster? It's a question. So unfortunately, yeah, it's a very sad picture. It's Abesalom Wigwa who left us already 7-8 years ago, and recently Kocha Kiladze. So it's about rhino. Why I put it this rhino? You see, the rhino has a specific. It brings luck a different way, right? Because rhino was the first element which identified and put Dmanisi as a prehistoric site. But also, it was the rhino from where we were able to get first enamel proteomes. So which showed that you can have animal proteomes, you can have so old fossils. Unfortunately, and I'm very happy that we tried also with our Spanish colleagues, Jose Maria here. Unfortunately, Dmanisi was not as successful as Homo antecessor, but at least started, right? It means that what I wanted to say that, and here are young students, that, you know, every field has own stages, right? You have, which is part of philosophy of science. Paleontology had the same, paleoanthropology. Today, it's a stage where molecular biology is coming, right? See, and I think the Svante Pääbo got Nobel Prize in medicine is a very clear case that how important information we are keeping in bones. Right? This helps me to speak with politicians why important are museum collections. But generally, what I wanted to say, how in this case, Dmanisi at IPHES-CERCA is able to bring cutting edge methodology here. And I think it's a very good example of it. And I'm sure very soon we will have detailed DNA sequences from here. To continue, you see, we have it. If I will not go in details, all new research, but what's interesting papers which were published with our Swiss colleagues about brains of Dmanisi, of the very detailed study and endocast. And I think it's important, you see, here is Dmanisi and here we have Sangira, that what shows that it shows very primitive organization of brain, particularly frontal lobes. What it means that when we are talking about portrait of Homo erectus, of Homo georgicus out of Africa, it's a balance. You see, it has one hand, very primitive things like small brain, and even brain organization is more ape-like than human-like. But simultaneously, I didn't speak a lot about postcranials. You have very advanced legs. So it's another puzzle in evolution where it shows that not everything is like highway, right? So, and this is also important papers which helps us to go in this direction that correlate with behavior. And I will recommend, this is, it just came out, full virtual, let's call it, special issue on Dmanisi. It's 10 papers. Jordi Agustí, Lorenzo, and myself, we edited, where you can really learn very detailed on site formation, taphonomy also different groups of animals, and there are really very interesting issues. For example, history of equids, and nose, and also you will see what are the pathology and diseases you can see on SCAL 228. So what I want to say, I will not go speak all these 10 papers, but you can download and look on it. That where is some kind of wrap up of different information, particularly on paleobiology. So this is one way I say, and I will repeat, you have a site, you have a fossils, and you are working on bringing new, may I say, approach. But another way is also you are doing classical way, you are continuing prospection. And sometimes you can be lucky. And this is site, at the beginning I mentioned that Dmanisi is between 8.5 and 1.76. And this was site Orozmani. And this is Orozmani where you have 176. And we knew about this site, I don't know how many, 1962 about this place. Myself in 91, too, with Abesalom Wekuali, my German Bozinski, we went several times. And never, but you see, 2 years ago, suddenly it started, you see, that we have one excavation which came out with stone tools, with some beautiful faunal remains. You know. Here you see coprolites. So industry, very primitive industry. And it's a 20 kilometer. And you see, human fossil. This is Georgi, you know him. Also was formed in Atapuerca in some way. And so what I wanted to say, now it's not alone. You see, we have something which is 1.8 and almost the same, 20 kilometers in the same valley. And Jody, you saw it, right? So, yeah. So another opportunity, what I want to say. So let's continue. And now since you have not been there, maybe I will tell what we have. We have new field lab, continuity, and we built another new museum, which is 15 kilometers from Dmanisi. It's a large museum where you have human evolution. You have another later periods, you know, we have here also near this place, we have found Neolithic site where later we identified earliest traces of wine, which dates 8,000. I have privilege to lead also this research, and we present it here. And it's nice, you know, on one hand you have early humans, and then you have first wine in one place. It's a dream, right? But what's good that it's an opportunity also to have a news, this conference room, conferences with lectures, but also we started another new conferences which were Dmanisi all the way last year. And why not to do Dmanisi Atapuercan this year? I'm seriously saying. And this was, you see, this is another bridge. I think it's an interesting project where you are looking really the two teams who works in Olduvai and in Dmanisi, we were comparing all directions, you know, starting human fossils or stone tools, animals. But I think it's a nice way to create new networks, right? And when I was coming today, I was preparing and I looked in old photos and why not come back since that time, right? Yeah, when we started and continued, yeah, it's pictures and go ahead. So to wrap up what I wanted to say there are finds, there are results, but there are opportunities. And these opportunities are really on different levels. It's opportunity, let me repeat, continue using new methodology for every different interdisciplinary field. But also an opportunity to continue prospection in different periods, not just like we found this Orozmani site, this almost Dmanisi time period, but we have sites which are earlier or later, just in this area. Because this area, may I say, we call it Ponto-Caspian big region. which is between Black Sea and Caspian Sea, could be another important clue, right, for these time periods starting, as I mentioned, 10, 9 millions. To see these connections with Near East biogeography and Africa and look on the way towards Europe. So this is the advantage of Beyond the Crossroad. But also it's nice to continue, and we prepare now a project of new museum exactly at the site, hope we will build soon, which will be like this, to continue work and to be really an important sport for the study of human evolution and even study of culture, bioculture of history. So thank you. This was